back with Bad Culture Radio. Once again, I'm your host, Jeandra LeBeauf, here at badculture.net, and it is just my absolute honor to introduce my guest tonight, future Hall of Fame inductee, title holder in 4 different weight classes, expert boxing analyst, pound-for-pound king. Y'all must have forgot, but I didn't forget. Please welcome the great Roy Jones Jr. How you doing tonight, Roy?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I am excellent, thank you. Ready to jump into some boxing and talk with you. And, you know, it's always been, you know, an honor for me to watch your career, and I'm just very excited to talk to you this evening.
Well, thank you.
Right now,
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you again. Why don't we start off by tackling, you're getting ready to jump back in the ring on December 4th against Bobby Gunn. Why don't you talk to us a bit about the making of this fight?
Well, Bobby's been asking to fight me for about a year and a half now. Back about 2 years ago, I think, when I fought a guy, can't think of his name, Max Alexander. Bobby Gunn was an option, but I chose Max Alexander instead. But since then, I've been watching him. He was a bare knuckle champ. He was a former IBA cruiserweight champ, and you know, he wasn't a bad guy. He was a pretty tough guy. But he hasn't asked me to fight him for so long, so I just never got a chance to because I really wasn't interested in it. He didn't have anything that I wanted or needed. Well, Anderson Silva has been talking about boxing me as of late, and before he lost his fight to Weidman, I went to the fight. Dana said that he was possibly going to let him box me had he beat Weidman. So he lost, and I thought it was over with, but he came back, and he said that every interview they did for the Weidman fight, he's been talking about fighting Roy Jones Jr. when we get through in an all-out boxing match. So with that being said, I said, well, you know what? If he coming at me in a boxing match, I can't say no because he is a legend in what he does as well as I am. So I need to get myself prepared in case he does win the fight against Weidman. I don't want to be saying, okay, well, wait, let me go get a tune-up. No, I should be ready already. So I decided, since Gunn wants to fight me, why not use that and take that as a tune-up and see, you know, you beat Gunn, then you go ahead and fight Anderson. If you don't beat Gunn, then you don't need, you just take it easy and go and leave the game. So that's how the fight came about.
So with the selection of Gunn, you know, you mentioned that he had already expressed interest in fighting you even before the whole Anderson Silva thing. Is it an extra added bonus now that Gunn is a bare-knuckle champion in the preparation for fighting against Anderson Silva? Does that not matter, or is that a positive in your fight preparation?
It does matter because now you fight a guy that does another top style of fighting as well as boxing, just like Anderson Silva does. So that's also made it even more intriguing to me because you are a bare-knuckle champ, whereas he's an MMA champ. So, yes, it does have a lot of validity as far as setting you up for fighting different styles of fighters. So I thought he was a great opponent because him being a bare-knuckle champion is so close to the MMA guy.
So now with Anderson Silva, you know, the road to Roy Jones Jr. kind of got sidetracked with his loss against Weidman. How far in the future is this fight likely with Anderson Silva? You know, are you continuing along those negotiations, or are you just focused on the gunfight at this point?
Well, I'm focused on the gunfight because I could never put one in front of the other. But at the same time, Dana told me that every city they did the world tour for the Weidman fight at, every city they stopped at, all he talked about was that when he gets through Weidman, he comes up with Roy Jones Jr. So that's what let me know that Roy Jones Jr. need to go and get ready because if he coming, I want to be able to answer that not when they're not.
And so the fight is taking place at the Philadelphia National Guard Armory. On tickets on sale now for folks out in the Philly area and those traveling who want to come out and see you.
Yeah, it is on sale now, and right now it's at the Philadelphia, it's at the Armory, but it may change. So it's definitely subject to change. So if it does change, don't be surprised.
Okay, absolutely. You know, now that you are also back in the ring, and, you know, another one of your foes from the past will be making his return to the ring a little later this month on Golden Boy Live, Antonio Tarver. And I read an interview you did recently with Bad Left Hook that you're interested in possibly doing a rematch with him or Bernard Hopkins sometime in the future. How tuned in are you going to be into Antonio's comeback fight in a couple weeks?
I won't be tuned into it. I mean, I hope he does well. I wish all the best to him, but, I mean, I know him. He know me, so it's no sense of me tuning in and being all upset or anxious about it. He's not fighting Roy Jones. He's fighting somebody else, so it really wouldn't matter to me how that turns out. If he wins and I win and we keep winning, then maybe we'll meet back in the middle again. You know?
Mm-hmm. You know, Roy, every time you jump in the ring, you're delaying us seeing you in the parade going down the street in New York. How many more fights are we going to see Roy Jones in in the near future?
I don't know. I'm not God. I didn't bless Roy Jones with talent. God did. So I don't know when God will say that's enough, but when he says that's enough, it'll be enough. But it won't no man tell me that's enough, and it'll be enough. That's for sure.
So if you could fight, let's say, okay, you do the fight, you get past Gunn, you do the fight, you get past Anderson Silva, and the next fight in front of you is a rematch with Antonio Tarver. What weight would you guys fight? Would you fight at cruiser? Would you try to come back up to heavyweight? And, how do you predict at this point in your career and this point in his career, how would that fight play out?
Well, it all depends. All depends. The weight will determine who's doing what at that time. If he's doing good as a heavyweight at that time, then I'm not going to expect him to lose weight and come back down to cruiserweight to fight me. Because if he's doing good at heavyweight, then, and I'm the one that's saying I want to fight again, so I got to go where he at. If I'm cruiserweight champ, I'm sure he'd like to try to come back down and capture cruiserweight title. So 9, 10, or 10, if I got a belt, he going to want to try to come back and get that belt. So we probably more like going to fight at cruiserweight then. So the circumstances will dictate the weight class we fight at.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I hope the fight moves and I'm able to catch it. As you know, I'm in Los Angeles, so I wouldn't be able to attend a fight of yours when it's happening in Philadelphia. So if you ever decide to move a fight out here on the L.A. side of the street, maybe at the StubHub Arena or something like that, I would like to come check your fight out.
I'll be back out that way soon, trust me.
Oh, excellent. We'll be, probably, an Anderson Silva fight, this would be a good spot for, to have that fight.
That's why I say I'll be back out that way soon. I mean, and then another thing is, if Anderson didn't win or didn't say he wanted to fight, there's also a guy who called me and said he wanted to fight, and his name is Nick Diaz. And I think he's from out that way. So that'd be a great boxing match as well. So it's very possible that we'll end up out that way soon, some kind of way.
So your strategy, not to tip your hand too much, in a fight with Anderson Silva, straight boxing? Are you going to try to throw into some other things into the arsenal?
Straight boxing.
Yeah, well, the general sentiment, when I've talked to people and mentioned that I'd be speaking to you, the general sentiment that I've heard from people in the streets are you're going to knock Anderson Silva out. Would you go for the straight knockout and just lay him out? I know I would enjoy that.
No, I would try to box him and see where his skill level is first. I want to see exactly how skilled he is. I want to see what kind of skills he got. So, I mean, to go out and just try to overwhelm him right away, you could bring yourself into something too. So you got to be very careful because he's not a bad boxer from what I've seen. So I would have to go out and methodically take him apart like I would do any other boxer.
So turning the shift in the focus now from the boxing side of the street to, your analyst duties where you are quite the fixture on HBO. We look back to the fight where you just had analyst duties this past weekend, Gennady Golovkin versus Curtis Stevens. Before we get into the fight itself, you came in as a middleweight. If Roy Jones Jr., the middleweight, was fighting Gennady Golovkin, how would you have boxed him based on what you saw against Curtis Stevens?
What I saw with Curtis Stevenson, I would have been going straight and not Golovkin because Curtis Stevenson did much better when he was on the attack. I would never let Golovkin come out and get comfortable with backing me up first, especially if I was a shorter guy. If you're a shorter guy, you got to make this guy uncomfortable as quick as you can. You never let a guy come out and get in rhythm, then think you're going to change him out of his rhythm because it's not likely to happen. And then on top of it, after you let him get in rhythm, he knocks you down. So now he's in full control. Now it's too late for you to try to change the way this game is going because you already fallen into his trap. And that's what I feel like happened.
So just your general thoughts on the fight. I remember at the conclusion of the fight when you guys were wrapping up, you gave Golovkin an A on his performance in the ring. What were your thoughts on the overall fight? You mentioned that Curtis Stevens was better when he was on the attack.
Yep.
Do you feel that what glaring things did you see in Golovkin's armor? Did you see any chinks in the armor? Or
no. What I saw was Golovkin came out to prove a point. Golovkin came out to prove that not only am I the better fighter, boxer, but I'm the better puncher as well. So he came out right away and set a precedent with challenging Curtis Stevenson with his punching power. And Curtis Stevenson did not answer the challenge. And before he could answer the challenge, he was already down. So Golovkin had already won the challenge before Curtis got a chance to even try to answer it back.
And now, as we look forward, we see that Golovkin has another fight already scheduled. He's going to be fighting in Monte Carlo against the next mandatory person for him. You know, he's been mentioned as a possible competitor for the lineal champion Sergio Martinez. He's also been mentioned to fight Andre Ward sometime in the future. How likely at this point, since Andre Ward is still fighting at super and Golovkin doesn't look like he has any plans of moving up to super middleweight, at least this year, how likely do you think that fight could happen?
Oh, that's a very likely fight. It's a fight that the public is going to demand and should deserve because Andre is the best super middleweight. Golovkin is proven to be the best middleweight. Why not put the two together? I mean, to me, the best should want to fight the best. And I know Golovkin's going to want to fight the best, and I know Andre's going to want to fight the best. So I don't see them two not coming together on a collision course.
Well, you were dominant at super middleweight. Same question like how you would box Golovkin. If you had to box Ward, how would you box Andre Ward?
Andre Ward's a very different style of a fighter. You know, he's very good, very tactical, very strong, skillfully. You have to really figure him out because he's a different stylistic type of a guy. He's not a guy that you're going to go in and easily outbox, and he's a guy that's very careful and very smart with all of his moves. So he's very precise. He's one of the best pound-for-pound boxers that you're going to see out there today, and it will take a lot of thought as into how to beat Andre. Andre is a guy that you can't allow to be comfortable because if you allow him to be comfortable, he's going to kill you. And you just have to know that. But the same thing I'm saying about any guy. You can't allow a guy to be comfortable in the way he does because he's going to beat you. And that's what Curtis Stevenson made the mistake with Golovkin. He allowed him to be comfortable.
So bringing the two of them back together now, you've got Golovkin, you've got Andre Ward. They have negotiated a catch weight. Who wins the bout? Just early prediction, dream matchup.
Very, very, very tough fight to call, and I don't like to predict it because, you know, styles make fights, and truly speaking, Golovkin is a smaller guy. So that's a tough one to call, but Andre is a very talented fighter, very smart fighter. He always seems to figure out a way to win. When they started the Super 6 tournament, I told him he was going to win it because he always figured out a way to win. And it'd be hard to see him not figuring out a way to deal with Golovkin, especially the fact that Golovkin's the one coming up in weight. So I don't know how Golovkin would really deal with Andre. And I do know that Andre is, Golovkin is Andre, like I said, once again, seems no matter what situation you put him in, he seems to come out victorious. So it would be something very difficult for Gennady Golovkin to figure out. And Gennady Golovkin would also be a very tough puzzle for Andre to figure out.
You know, a lot of critique that we've seen about Golovkin, well, some critique, you know, there are those who just love him unconditionally, and then there are those who criticize his head movement or lack thereof head movement. As a boxer whose eyes are trained to precise movements, you know, as we as writers, you know, we know a lot about the sport, but at the same time, you don't really know a sport until you've actually engaged in it. Is that a real chink in his armor, the lack of head movement?
No, it's not, because he has an absolutely phenomenal chin. I mean, you got a chin like that, the head movement don't really bother you because one shot not going to do nothing to him. So it's like for him, if he had a problem with his chin, Curtis Stevenson would have exploited that this weekend because Curtis Stevenson is one hell of a puncher and he could do nothing with Golovkin's chin. So when you see that, then he may have a little bit of a lack, but part of his lack of head movement is because he's so focused on trying to get to the target that he doesn't care about his own head. He just wants to make sure he gets to yours because in his mind, he can take 5 times more than you can give him.
Now, in the aftermath of this fight, you have Curtis Stevens. You know, it seems that he, in lasting for so long, longer than many have predicted, lasting so long in the ring with Golovkin, he seems to have picked up some more fans. Is middleweight a good weight for him to fight at? He came down from super middleweight. You know, is it a matter of him building back up from where he's at?
Yeah, middleweight is definitely the right weight for him. He looked very good as a middleweight. I think that's the best possible weight for him. I just think he got to get back on the horse and start looking back at it. And when he looks at the fight and realizes how well he did when he went forward, he'll start saying, what would have happened had I came out and went forward from the beginning of round 1? That's what will tell him where he is right now.
Excellent. Also fighting on the card that night, this fight now is getting more attention than it actually did during the broadcast. You had Mike Perez fighting Magomed Abdul Salamov at the top of the show. Before you joined me, I mentioned that, he's in the hospital, as many of us know. His promotional team has set up a fund for him. How do you separate, as a boxer, when you go into the ring, the idea is to kill, 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 and then in the aftermath you have these instances like Abdul Salamov and then the gentleman, Frankie Leal, who passed away a few weeks ago. If you're a fighter, what does that do to Mike Perez's stock now as a heavyweight fighter? Does it make him feared? Does it increase his stock value? It's unfortunate what happened to Abdul Salamov, but it's kind of like a buyer beware when you decide to box. What does this do for his career now?
Skyrocketed his career, skyrocketed his marketability, skyrocketed everything in boxing for Mike Perez because nobody expected him to be able to deal with that killer in Abdul Salamov. But he came in and outworked him, outfought him, outboxed him. He beat him in pretty much every aspect of the game, took his best punches, something nobody expected. So Mike Perez's stock has skyrocketed through the center right now.
What do you think of the state? We discuss a lot on this show. So much focus is placed on the glamour division, on the welterweight, the light welterweight division. But we tend to focus more on the heavyweight since people like to pan that division and say it's in a shambles and it's just non-existent for Americans anymore. Where is Mike Perez's place now in the heavyweight division amongst a Deontay Wilder or a Bryant Jennings or even a Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who very likely could be sitting in heavyweight in the next year?
Well, Cesar Chavez Jr. is not going to be a heavyweight, but Mike Perez is the guy that we want to see next in line to fight one of the Klitschko brothers. Mike Perez is a guy that is really a big guy, who's a big punching guy who can really actually box. And this is what we've been missing from the heavyweight division. The only thing was they said that Mago reminded them of the president, Ika Biabuchi, and in all actuality, Mike Perez looked more like Ika Biabuchi than did Mago. So I think Mike Perez is the guy that we want to see in front of Vitaly Klitschko or Vladimir Klitschko next.
Well, we have the Klitschko, the Vitaly, who is interested in running for political office, so it's a chance that he could be stepping out. Vladimir is still active, but he could be on the tail end of his career. How does Deontay Wilder, we have this matchup coming up pretty soon with Tyson Fury and David Haye. We have kind of a mixed bag of heavyweights happening. Who do you think is in a position now to take over the throne of heavyweight?
Mike Perez, without a doubt.
Okay, and so, watching him box, he had all of the tools, the good movement. What flaws will he need to improve upon? Is it he looks like he could stand a little more in the conditioning area? What would you improve?
A little bit more conditioning, but other than that, I think he'd be the perfect candidate to take over the division because he showed a very strong chin. He showed some very good boxing ability. The only thing, the only thing I saw was maybe a little bit more strength in the conditioning area, but he was obviously pretty conditioned because he stayed about the same throughout the whole night. So the only thing I want to see him improve on is his conditioning, but everything else was pretty much good.
Turning back to focus now on his opponent, Abdul Salamov, in the corner. I don't know how much of you guys can hear this when you're doing the broadcast, but he kept asking his corner, was his nose swollen, was his face swollen, those different type of questions. How much have you seen a deficiency in, because you're watching hundreds of fights at any given time, are you starting to notice a deficiency in the corners in terms of training? Is there some type of, should corners be stepping up their intuitiveness in the corner when their fighter complains of injury? Or is that just the nature of the beast?
No, I'm going to be honest with you. In that fight, if I was in his corner, I think I would have stopped it because I realized his nose either broke or his orbital bone was broke. One of the other one was orbital bone was broke. So whichever it was, something was definitely injured, and I think I would have stopped him to not risk further damage because he was not going to stop himself. I would have done that. But as far as the corners go, I feel like us on the whole in the United States, our corner has dropped off a whole lot, as far as the amateurs go, and that's why all these other countries are outdoing us now, because the amateur programs are so weak now that we're not able to compete as professionals. But if you look at it, we're really not competing as amateurs either, because last Olympics we didn't even receive a medal. When I was coming on, that was unheard of.
Mhm. Absolutely. And now, with the kind of the development in channels of these amateur boxing, what could be done within the boxing community to kind of entice these young people who have an interest in boxing but kind of for whatever reason veer away from it? You know, what changes can we do as supporters of the sport or coaches to enhance it?
Here's the problem, here's the difference. The problem is, in Cuba, they got schools that they go to at 5 and 6 years old. And they go to boxing schools, and they study all day. But they have a program now, and that program is what everybody's going to follow. They have a program that every coach that goes there knows the program. That's where everybody sticks to the same thing. In Russia, they do the same thing. They have schools that they have, and they get these kids in the boxing. Once they get in boxing, everybody's on the same sheet of music. Everybody don't make it, but everybody on the same sheet of music. So as a team and as a country, on the whole, they all do pretty good, and they all get pretty close to the top, but they pretty much at least going to get in the middle round because they have strong backgrounds that start from a very small age, and they're all focusing on one thing, not a whole lot of different guys say, oh, no, you do it like this, or no, you're going to do it like that. No. Everybody's on the same sheet of music from when they're 5 to when they're 45. So they can't make a mistake with that because everybody's doing the exact same thing from start to finish. So it's very difficult to compete with a country that has a program like that. And to give you a perfect example, it's almost like Duke and Coach K. Coach K's system is going to look the same every year. I don't give a care what kind of players you send him. He's going to transform them into his style of play. I don't care what you send him, how you send it to him, whether the point guard good, whether the power forward good, whether it's the center that's good. You're still going to see somewhat the same style of play. You just may see more points come from the point guard or more come from the center that particular year as opposed to the year before, all depends on what he has. But still, the basic fundamental is the same, which is why Coach K is so tough every year. You very rarely see Duke have a bad basketball season, and that's because of the coaching program. Well, that's what we're lacking in the United States in boxing. We have so many different styles and so many different ways of doing it, and we have no continuity when it comes to boxing skill.
Well, looking at that in these schools that are kind of evolved to train these fighters from a young age in the other countries, now with the increased use of social media, you know, we get tons of video of people sparring and, you know, things that were unheard of because that was all part of the strategy. You know, when you see Floyd Mayweather doesn't allow his sparring sessions to be taped. And when you have these fighters that come up, say, for instance, in the Cuban system, the Rigondeaux and fighters like that, or Mexican fighters, each country has a very specific style of how they fight. Do you think that manner of teaching can still be effective now that we have so much visual access where other coaches could kind of tune in and watch the development of other fighters just because so many people are so utilized and so consumed by social media and sharing what they're doing? Can those types of schools still be effective in developing a fighter from a young age?
Of course they can, but like I said, it has to be some continuity. You got to start, you got to get something that works. We don't even have many trainers that build fighters from the ground up. I mean, if you think about it, we go to people that says, and I'm not saying that bad about the guy, a lot of them do really, really good, but you got the guy that trained Adrian Broner, who started Adrian Broner from day one and still with him now. You got a guy that's trained the kid from Denver. I can't think of his name now, but they started with him from day one, and they're still with him right now. But then you got people like Freddie Roach who get credit for being trainer of the year, but he got people like Manny Pacquiao who he got once Pacquiao was already developed. That's where we got a misconception of guys who really know how to train them from day one and guys who can take a Michael Jordan and can just help make Michael Jordan maximize the rest of his career. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. And that's where the problem comes. Because people say, oh, and Freddie, like, even, and give you a perfect example, Freddie did a phenomenal job with Pacquiao and with Cotto. He made Cotto look like the old Cotto. But he's not the one that started Cotto and taught Cotto how to beat Cotto from the beginning. That guy don't get much credit. Freddie gets hella credit for making him come back to the normal Cotto, but the guy who taught him ain't get no credit for it. And that's where the problem comes. We need a guy that can teach him the foundation that can make him beat Cotto from the beginning. That's the guy we need at these schools, teach them how to box.
Mm-hmm. And in addition, you know, the grind of a fighter from a very young age with the same coach, when these fighters are prone to certain type of injuries, you know, the trainer and the coach will have knowledge of it, watch it develop over the years so you don't have these accidental injuries.
complete knowledge, and that's exactly right. But it makes the guy stronger because you got 20 years with the same guy, so you feel very comfortable with what this guy got you doing and all. But when you got to change coaches, and change styles, it messes them up. And that's why our country's in such a bad state right now, because some fighters from Georgia fight like this, fighters from Florida fight like that, and fighters from Vegas fight like this, and fighters from here fight like that. I mean, it's no continuity.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, just from a fighter's perspective, when a fighter reaches a certain pinnacle of success, there are many who stay with their trainer from the cradle to the grave, and then there are other fighters, I won't say any specific names, who like to jump from trainer to trainer. Once you have reached a certain level of success and kind of carved out your style, of what benefit is it to jump from a trainer when you're already well entrenched in a certain type of style? What new thing could they possibly teach you?
Well, it's not necessarily teaching you new. Sometimes they bring a different form of enthusiasm for you because you're so used to the same old thing, so you're not enthused about it no more. So now, when a guy comes in and he's fighting kind of from a different standpoint or with a different mindset, you give your mind something to work at because you're so used to doing the same thing over and over that you need something different or something new to add to your arsenal to make your mind work again. Because it's like anything else, sometimes when you get so good at something, you feel you're good enough at it, you don't work that hard no more because you feel like you're good enough. And that's what you don't want to happen. And that's why sometimes it's good to inject new blood into what you're doing, because that'll give you that sense of needing to get better, needing to work harder, needing to try harder because you want to learn something new or you want to learn something better. Not a lot of guys do it that way, but to me, that's the way I see it. And so it's like a lot of guys get these things that don't necessarily need them, but some guys get them because they want to add to what they're doing. They want to make themselves re-motivated or rededicated to boxing, and the way you do that is by learning something new or something different. And,
and also going back to the whole having total knowledge of what your fighter's capable of, injuries that they're prone to, with the case of what these gentlemen with their head injuries. I recall seeing a video back from 2011 where you mentioned that you had been working with a chiropractic doctor. Do you still engage in that type of treatment for, this type of kind of brain conditioning treatment?
You always should do that kind of stuff to always better yourself. And you don't wait till something happens. You don't wait till something happens before you try to better yourself. You got to try to do things that keep bettering yourself at all times, because it's like football. You're going to play football, you should always be looking to do things to fight against the fact that there will be concussions. You're going to start doing things that can help you with concussions, just like how in boxing, I know that if you box, you're going to take body shots. And if it's something you can do to help yourself be better prepared to get some body shots, you need to do it, because in no sense think you're going to box and not be hit with body shots. But in no sense think you're going to play football and not get concussed. Or you're not going to box and not get concussed. So because you do that sport, or your sport is dealing with head injury, if there's anything that somebody can allow you to do to help better yourself or help you prevent any type of injury before it even happens, you should do it, because it's very much a possibility in your sport.
Folks are taking on what you said about body shots. That's kind of a lost art. We saw Miguel Cotto bring out the body shot, something he's known for, a signature punch of his. We saw Golovkin start cutting Curtis Stevens down with body shots as well. Do you think there is too much focus placed on knockouts at this point, also part of this whole microwave generation we have with social media, instant gratification? Do you think that the art of boxing itself is being lost because so much focus now is being placed on the knockouts?
In our country, for sure. That's one of the biggest issues we got, because everybody's trying so hard to knock out that they're not really paying attention to the art of boxing, setting the guy up, working the guy over, working the guy down, working for the knockout. They don't do that no more. And one of the best examples I've seen of a guy really doing it the right way in a long time was Gennady, the kid that fought Mike Alvarado. He did a great job of going to Mike Alvarado's body and wearing his body down and making a short night for Mike Alvarado because Ruslan Provodnikov. He did a great job of fighting, going to the body and working the body. He was a perfect example of what good body shots to do to a good fighter over a period of time if you stick with it.
we don't see too many fighters just looking for the body shot. You know, how much of it is pressure? You know, you hear fighters mention in interviews that they want to give the audience what they want, which is knockouts. With the increase of head injuries, I mean, I know a fighter can't look at it. From that perspective. You can't be tentative if you're going into the ring with someone. But you look at fighters like Guillermo Rigondeaux and people who kind of get this unfair stigma of being a quote-unquote boring fighter because they're not knockouts. They come in and dominate with touches and points. You know, what can media do to kind of bring these casual fight fans to realize this is the true intention of the sport, that not every fight is going to be a knockout fight?
Well, media can quit celebrating the bar fight so much and start telling the truth about what's really happening. Tell the truth and let people know the difference between a glorified bar fight and a glorified boxing match. There is a difference. Rigondeaux is a guy who will always be in a glorified boxing match because that's what he is. That's what made him so exceptional. That's what made him a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Not only him, but the guy Chico. These guys are two-time gold medalists for a reason. But at the same time, he can get the knockout, and if you make a mistake, he will get the knockout. But he's the type of fighter that will come in looking for the knockout because his experience and his teaching has taught him that if you're good enough, if you stick to the plan what you're supposed to do, 9 times 10, a knockout will come. But you have to go out there and try to knock people out because that gets you knocked out. They tell you a long time ago, they teach you a long time ago as a kid, live by the gun, die by the gun.
Absolutely. And so part of our responsibility as media, not to celebrate these glorified fighters. What do you think of fighters who are building these career nows on the knockout? You know, while knockouts are exciting, how effective is the knockout if the knockout hasn't come against a notable opponent? You know, I don't call any fighter a bum because I know I'm not getting into the ring, so I have no cause to call any fighter a bum. But at the same time, how do you categorize fighters who are building these legacies and these careers without fighting notable competition, whereas when you were fighting, you had to fight tough fight after tough fight after tough fight
it's very difficult because,
establish your legacy?
It's very difficult because you want to see a guy go in and fight the best fighters, no matter if they're a puncher, no matter if they're a boxer, no matter if they're a fighter. You want to see the guy fight the best that's out there at that time. When guys don't do that, to me it takes away from the fact that he was good because he didn't fight the best that was available. So if you was really that good, you fought the best that was available. And anybody that really think they're good should want to fight the best that's available. If you ain't doing that, then you ain't doing nothing to me.
And as far as the best fighting the best, how do we end this Cold War between the two major promoters? You know, we have the other promoters, the smaller promoters, the DeBellas and the Goose and Shooters and these other in main events who can kind of navigate a little bit between and make their fights. But in order for the best to fight the best, how do we end this Cold War between these promoters? Do we just put Bob Arrow and Richard Schaefer in the ring and let them fight it out?
Really what needs to happen is boxing needs to be a lot like UFC. You need to have one person over it all, a person that's fair, that's going to handle it the right way, and that person dictates who fights who and how and when and why, because if not, the two promoters are going to stick right now. It's not to make it even worse. The two promoters are tied in with the two top networks. One's over here, one's over there, and nobody crossed the line. That makes it even worse. It makes the battle worse than what it was, because now, instead of just having promoters that won't deal, you got two networks that don't want their fighter to deal either. So one promoter won't let the fighter fight on one network, and the other promoter won't let this fighter fight on the other network, and that's crazy.
So if you could make that one essential change to restructure boxing as it exists as a whole, the best thing to change about boxing is to make it under one umbrella where everybody fights under one umbrella.
There you go. That'll be the best thing to do, and whatever that commissioner say does is what has to happen. That commissioner says you got to fight this guy, you need to fight this guy, you got to get out of boxing. And that'll make it right.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, the competing cards, you know, we're trying to, you know, build the sport up. You know, media likes to, not media, but casual fight fans and people who don't tune in like to say that boxing is dead, it's dying on the vine, it's on its last leg, et cetera, but at the same time you have these competing cards and agendas that are splitting the audience, so you can't build it back up to the formidable sport that it is. So
not only that, the commentator kind of tearing the fighters down as well, making people think the fighters are no good no way when they never been there fought as a fighter. And like you just said, you can't call nobody a bum because you know what it is. They have to go in there and face another man. So it's definitely it ain't fair to call some fighter a bum or talk about a guy like he is a bum like you so much better than him and you never fought somebody. You know what I mean? So that's crazy, but that's what tears the sport down.
Just during the course of trying to keep myself in shape, I had a chance to go over to Eastside Boxing here in L.A., and I trained a little bit with Layman Brewster. I was done when he dropped the medicine ball on my midsection. That was it for me. I was never calling a boxer a bum anyway, but once that and just the whole skipping around the ring for 3 minutes, I thought I was going to die, and I'm reasonably in shape, so you'll never hear me or see my site call any boxer a bum because you have to respect
but that's what also has made up the sport. People talk about guys that are not as fortunate as other guys, and they talk about them as though they shouldn't even be alive. You know what I mean? And that's wrong.
Right. Absolutely. So, looking forward to, you're down in Texas right now for this weekend's card, correct?
No, yeah, I was Texas weekend in Corpus Christi, Texas, yes. Okay,
so you've got a loaded card down there on the broadcast. We've got Rocky Martinez, who's going to be fighting Mikey Garcia, and we've got Nonito Donaire, who's fighting Vic Darchinyan again for a rematch. We'll start with Nonito Donaire, Vic Darchinyan. Early predictions. I know you've been at fighter meetings and press conferences with these guys all week. What are your predictions for how this fight is going to play out?
I think that's going to turn out to be another very good fight. It was a war the first time. I think it's going to be a war this time. Darchinyan wants revenge on Donaire. Donaire got to try to prove that he's still the Donaire that he was, and he's trying to get back to the top of that pound-for-pound heat. I think this is another fight that's going to turn out. I think it'll be a lot like the first one, but I think it'll be a great fight up until that point. And I'm thinking Nonito may pull it out, but it's going to be a tough one. And then the second fight, Mikey Garcia, to me, is something very special. So Rocky Martinez is good, but Mikey Garcia is on the verge of being great. And I think, for me, I think it'll be a tough fight for Rocky Martinez because Garcia is so strong and people don't realize the punch of power that Mikey Garcia possesses.
Yeah, Mikey Garcia, he has a special quality, I agree. There's another fighter that I enjoy who kind of has that secret assassin type of thing, Leo Santa Cruz. It's also that type of fighter. He looks, unassuming, but he gets in the ring and he just turns the lights out on whoever he gets in the ring with. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. So before we wrap it up, I thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know you're really busy and you guys have a lot that you have to take care of there.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you for having me, and God bless you all. I hope everybody enjoys themselves. I hope y'all enjoyed the interview. And I look forward to y'all tuning in December 4th to watch Roy Jones Jr. stop the gun. Stop the gun.
The gun is going to get stopped. You can knock him out, and he said he's going out on his shield anyway. I'm looking forward to you possibly making this match with Anderson Silva. I'm not the biggest UFC fan to begin with, but it would just be that much more icing on the cake if you could just knock Anderson Silva out. So if you could do that for us, represent for boxing, because hold us down, Roy.
I got that coat for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, before you go, I think someone wants to ask you a question. Hold on 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Bad Culture Radio, you're on with Roy Jones Jr. Do you have a question for him?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello, you're on. Hello, you're on with Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, how you doing? This is Mike from New York. How you doing?
What's up, Mike?
Man, Roy, I've been a fan for you, of yours for 10+ years. You're one of my favorite fighters. Your style, you were the best pound for pound for at least a decade. But my question to you is this: you just mentioned that that boxers should be under one umbrella, but yet, here's my question for you: Golden Boy, a few months ago, they offered Mares. The Mares Donaire fight. They offered Donaire $3 million, and Bob Arum said no. So my question is, and now we have the Cold Board, which is messing up a lot of fights. My question is it Bob Arum really the problem now? It's not Bob Arum.
It's not just Bob Arum. They have a truce right now. And whoever gives in first is going to feel like he's the weaker one. So if Bob would gave in, the fight would have went to Golden Boy would have promoted the fight. The fight would have been on Showtime, and Bob would have lost. And Bob not going to do that with his fighter. So what he's saying is, no. Huh?
I have a question. I remember there was a heavyweight fight back in the day when HBO and Showtime did a collaborative effort. I forgot what the fight was.
Tyson and Lennox Lewis.
Tyson and Lennox Lewis. They had Jim Lampley and the guy from Showtime. I forgot it. Bobby Ches, I believe. They both called that fight.
And that's what they should do now. They should come together and do the same thing now on big fights. But the problem is they won't make the little fights enough in order to build a fight big enough to make it happen that way. Because a lot of people know Donaire, but they don't really know Abner Mares. And a lot of people know Abner Mares and don't really necessarily care about Donaire. But because they're on separate networks, it's hard to see the two together. But if you put them together and let people see them together at one time, then you be like, oh, this will be a really good fight. So now people will want to see it. But it's hard when you got one on Showtime, one on HBO. It's hard to compare notes.
Yeah, I definitely feel it. I'm a big Tom fan, like I mentioned. I mean, I love your style. You're like the Whitakers, the Andre Wards. One more quick question before you get out. Do you feel as though that technical boxers, like, I mean, you one of the greatest of all time, but technical fighters like Ward and Rigo, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna put Danny Garcia in there too because what he did
You got to.
You know, do you think they're really being promoted on that higher level? Because a lot of casual fans, they like the Rioses and the Alvarados for their slugfest style, but not technically sound. Do you think to preserve the boxers, especially with the safety, especially what happened this past Saturday, do you think they should prop up more of the technical boxers like the Austin Trouts as well? Do you think so?
No, I know so, because those are the guys that last long in this game. Those are the guys that don't get a whole lot of injuries because they don't get hit much. But in boxing nowadays, they promote the slugfest guy, like I said, the glorified bar fight, and that's not the way boxing's supposed to go. Boxing's supposed to be hit and not get hit, but they ain't promoting it that way no more. They're promoting the glorified street fights now, and that's what people are into.
Roy, I was 15 years old when I saw that Gerald McCullen and that Nigel Benn fight, and after what I saw this past Saturday night, I saw that fight again, and I just really feel as though, okay, Bar Fest, this is not the UFC, this is boxing. This is the sweet science. The sweet science is supposed to be hit and not be hit. And I think as fans, we have to look ourselves in the mirror. I think we should appreciate the technical craft of boxing, like yourself, like the Pernell Whitakers, like the Floyd Mayweathers, like the Andre Wards, like the Rigondeaux. I'm going to have to put Austin Trout and Lara in there, too. The Mikey Garcias, he's very, very technical, too. I think we have to appreciate more of those boxers as opposed to these, okay, I love to be hit.
You're right, my brother. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for calling in. We have a couple more people who want to ask questions.
I'm sorry to take up all your time. Yo, Roy, one love, man. I can't wait to see you in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for holding. You have a question for Roy Jones Jr. Hello. Yep. Hello. You're on with Roy Jones Jr. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Ms. Jace, I'm calling from a colleague calling to show some support. And I want to ask Roy about a fight that HBO has upcoming this December 7th. I'm a fan of Kirkland, and I'm happy to see him back. I don't know much about the kid he's fighting, Glenn Tapia. And I'm going to the fight to show my support to him. But, Roy, do you think that you just spoke on it with the previous caller? I'm pretty sure it's going to be a slugfest because this is how Kirkland fights. If he were to lose, with him being, gone for so long, is there any chance that he can make a comeback from a loss? Because recently when he was out the ring, I'm a little nervous right now. When he was out the ring, he had some problems. And he's a guy I'm rooting for in life because I don't want, with a guy who basically brought me into boxing, that fight between him and Angulo, I don't want to see, this guy, fail. I want him to do good in boxing. But if he were to lose, is there any chance that he could come back, again, with HBO supporting him, with his new promoter, would 50 give him the support after a loss?
Yeah, 50 would give him support after a loss because 50 would have to understand the fact that he's been off for so long. He probably have a tough time on how he loses as opposed to how the network would treat him. But at the same time, I think 50 would understand this kid's been off for over a year. So you can't expect if he did lose for him to be performing at his best level right now because he's been inactive for so long. I think 50 would understand that. I think 50 would give him another chance, yes.
Okay, and Roy, after your fight with Bobby Gunn, I believe it's at light heavyweight. Am I correct?
Cruiser. Cruiser.
At cruiserweight. So Roy, if you were to win, and I think the biggest cruiserweight champ right now is Juan Pablo Hernandez.
Yep.
All right, so if you were to win and get another one after that and have a chance to face Hernandez, would you be able to see yourself boxing a couple of years from now and taking that fight?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. All right, thanks, Roy.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Thanks for calling in. One more question before we wrap it up. Thank you for calling Bad Culture Radio. You're on with Roy Jones Jr. Hello, you're on with Roy Jones Jr.
Hello.
Hi.
Jeandra.
Hi.
How are you?
Can you hear us, Michelle? This is Roy Jones Jr. Calling in Michelle Rosado. Do you have a question for Roy?
I do. Roy, I'm going to actually go left with you a little bit and talk about a Golden Boy fighter, Adrian Broner.
Yes.
I know that you've probably heard a lot about some of his antics outside of the ring. What are your thoughts on this kid? Because originally I thought he had a lot of skills, but it seems like he needs some handlers. And I know you're from the old school, and, he's really getting into this rap game and spending a lot of money on, like studio time and engineering and rap videos and all this. And can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, how detrimental is this going to be for him financially and in the ring? How's that going to impact him?
It's going to be pretty tough on him financially. In the ring, it shouldn't impact him too much at all. But he does have to be careful on what he does outside of the ring, because his reputation outside the ring will cause him to not be as fortunate inside the ring, because people may not want to support him as much if he's not careful of the things he does outside the ring. I think he's a phenomenon as far as talent goes. I think he's a wonderful boxer, wonderful guy to watch. And, a lot of times it's very hard to tell a guy how to spend his money when he works so hard for it. You feel me? So you can't tell him how to spend his money, what he can and can't do, but he does have to be careful with the way that he does some of the things. Studios that I ain't so bad on, but there are a couple other things that you got to be careful on. You got to watch.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Roy. It has been an absolute pleasure. Any shout-outs you want to give? Can I get you to put
I want to give a shout out to everybody.
Where you hang out?
I want to give a shout out to everybody that follows and supports Roy Jones Jr., everybody that follows and supports boxing. Do my best to do the best that I can in every aspect of it. When I fight or when I talk about fights, if I offend people, I'm very sorry that you were offended, and I hope that, one day you would find it hard to forgive the offenses if you feel like I offended you. But at the same time, I got to tell it like it is and do my job, and my job is to tell it like it is. So thank you all for supporting me. God bless you all, and I thank you for having me on this interview now, okay?
Thank you. God bless you too, Roy. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you. All right.